Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, we have another sweet treat for you, as always, when it comes to our Screambox coverage. We got lucky and we were able to discuss Shifted with two of its creators. Yes, we're talking to the director and the producer. Both of them are co writers on this. So this was something we actually shot back a couple weeks ago now. But it is one of those things where it was really insightful, and we honestly got way more out of this interview than I think we were expecting as far as just like the technical stuff, because that's something we try to do on this is we try to get into the minutia of like, well, how did you guys accomplish this? How did you accomplish that? What did it look like on set day one? And these guys were so generous with their time and just like going through the conversation with us that I genuinely believe that this is one of our most like on a speaking technically and speaking about making a short film, or not a short film, but a low budget feature. This is probably one of our best interviews, I think, since we sat down with Kyle Edward Ball and were able to actually pick his brain about getting Skinamarink made. This has given us the most opportunity to sit down and talk to these gentlemen, and they were just so wonderful.
Yeah. Regardless of how we feel about anything, I think sitting down with creatives like this and having these in-depth conversations about, how did this idea first come to be, and then how did it translate from what you originally wanted to do, and then how it came out from the script, and then actually onto film. Those conversations are just invaluable for people.
Hmm.
Um, to understand what the motivation was, and because we all deal with it as creatives, whether you're writing or you're actually trying to go out and film something, you run into obstacles, whether it's writer's block, whether it's a budgetary issue. All those obstacles are going to be in your way from achieving what you want to accomplish, and it's how you get past those obstacles, and get that finished project, whether it's something intended and it's the perfect polished product that you wanted to get out there, or it's in line with what you wanted to get out there, but not exactly the verbatim idea that you had. It's like one of those things where we all deal with that, no matter whether you have $0, $1,000, or an unlimited $1 million budget. There's always those conversations to be had. That's why sitting down and talking to these guys was just something we didn't know what it was going to look like going into this. And then when we started getting into those tiny details, especially I obviously love talking script writing with anyone who does creations like this, and being able to pick their brains and learn their habits, especially when we get into the interview of what started to be, and then how they kind of pivoted into Shifted, and how long it took them to actually make this film. It's like it kind of gives you that motivation, and to get the film made, and to no matter what obstacles are put in your way, to keep on trucking and get something out there.
Absolutely. And the beauty of this interview, I've been trying to do this for a lot of you guys too, is we do keep this spoiler free. So you guys, if you haven't seen Shifted, I definitely recommend watching it beforehand, so that way maybe you know what we're hinting towards. But I think that it's also going to be valuable just discussing the differences in just like I don't want to spoil anything in the interview, obviously, but there's kind of some shocking revelations as to when they came at this from their first year of shooting to their next year. And that's talking about performances, equipment, everything. Like, it's just honestly kind of mind blowing that that doesn't translate that hard onto the project itself. Everything when you watch this movie looks consistent. And I thought that that was one of the most impressive parts of this interview, and honestly has made me go back and look at the film with a much keener eye and just think, holy crap, these guys actually had a lot of obstacles in front of them, and they were able to, complete it and get it on Screambox. And, again, thank you to the guys over at Screambox for making this happen. Like I said, we shot this a couple weeks ago, and by then we had Evil Dead and everything coming out, so I wanted to make sure that this had a wide berth on the channel and wasn't going to get buried by just reviews and current stuff that you guys really want to see. This is honestly, again, one of those, if you're a filmmaker, this is the interview for you.
Absolutely. It's must see, must listen. You always look at these things. We had it kind of happen with The Mean One, where we got to sit down and talk to the director and pick his brain a little bit in what the intention was behind that film. And then you kind of look at that, you look at Shifted with a little different lens after you get to sit down, talk with these guys, and understand where their heads were at, and what they went through to get this thing made. Because when you understand the timeline that it took from beginning to end of this film, I think you have that much more respect for the creatives behind it, because it is one of those things where you could easily lose motivation and not get a film made. But here they sit with a finished product that is on Screambox and accessible to a lot of people. And looking at these interviews, we always come in with a set questions of like, okay, Dylan has this, I have this, and my favorite times are when we're able to become conversational, and it's like we're not looking at the paper anymore, and we're kind of just asking off the cuff type of questions. And I think this is really what this interview had become, where we didn't know how long this was going to go for, and it definitely exceeded our expectations in terms of the time they allotted to us, which was just phenomenal, and one of those, again, invaluable experiences that we just were gifted here, was Shifted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But without further ado, let's just hop right into it. This is our interview with director Adrian Konstant and producer and both writers, Jason Green. Alrighty, guys. So we are here with obviously the producer and director of Shifted. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. And yeah, man, this is a really, really cool opportunity, especially when it comes to a film like yours, where, Screambox has been really great to us. We've gotten to see a lot of really cool things like The Outwaters and a couple other projects come out. But the thing that I admire about them as a studio and like what they've been able to do is they're not picky. It seems like they really don't try to sit there and say, hey, we're gonna, just focus on the big budget, high budget stuff. They're like, we need filmmakers who have passion. We need people who are making stuff that other people are going to want to watch. It doesn't have to be the flashiest thing in the world, and we've seen that a lot. And that's one of the things that I like about them, is that they're able to kind of like bring people in who, just like I said, have that raw passion. So I wanted to ask, first off, how did you guys get on Screambox's radar?
Yeah, it was really our sales agent. We had a sales agent, John.
Yeah, it came from when we were finished Shifted, we started entering into a bunch of festivals. So we were pretty lucky. We had a pretty good festival run. I think we had I want to say 12 festivals worldwide, and won some awards. But I think it was after the third or fourth festival, some sales agents started to reach out, and we talked to a couple, and we got hooked up with this guy John, who was great, and he started doing the work. It was an interesting process with him because, if your viewers are kind of familiar with sales agents and distribution at all, we have done it once before, and the sales agents, a lot of times, they want to sign a deal with you for quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
And we were right in the middle of our festival run, or just kind of getting started, and he was willing to, I think he said,
6
give
months.
me no, it was less. It was like,
just a month.
He was like, give me a month.
Yeah.
And because at first he, the standard contract is like, give me a year, I'll shop it around and whatnot. But we had so many people reaching out. He was like, give me 30 days. And if I can't do something, and you guys aren't happy, then, you can move on. And so we were like, yeah, absolutely. We give him a try. And yeah, he had a couple places in mind, but Screambox was right at the top of his list, and they were really cool to work with.
That's great. And yeah, like I said, I love them because, again, they really just they understand that, from what I understand, just my limited knowledge of streaming services, Netflix has this whole thing where they're like, it needs to be shot in 4K.
That's
it needs
right.
to be all this dolled up stuff and everything. But it's some of the best movies that I've seen are films that are just like, yeah, we made it for, $10,000, but the idea is there, the passion is there, and it's interesting, it's intriguing, much better than, Love is Blind, whatever season they're on at this point, kind of thing. It's like, I'd rather watch that than that. So, that's really why I think that they're doing great work, especially finding people like you guys who, we got to say, we said it in our review, it's completely admirable that you guys were able to go out there with, a limited budget and make something that's out there for people, that's premiering tomorrow. So it's like, this is some really cool stuff. And I honestly, you guys should pat yourselves on the back, because that is an incredible feat.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because the thing is, we've been around a couple times, we've made a couple movies that have gone nowhere. And so it does feel really great just to be hooked up with a distributor, hooked up with a distributor like Screambox, which is fantastic. So when I was putting the logo at the front of the movie, Screambox Original, I was like, yeah, this is cool.
It's surreal.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Awesome.
I see you have a shredder behind you there.
Oh yes, yeah, for Evil Dead Rise.
Really giving me Evil Dead. Man, I don't know if I can watch that movie. Trailer seems very scary.
I'm totally excited.
When they put the shredder on the leg, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, no, we're definitely pumped for that. That's coming out Thursday for us, is when we're going to be able to check that bad boy out. So I'm all for it. I saw this at Walmart. I was like, you know what? Great piece for the background. Let's do it.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I was actually going to bring up Evil Dead, because on the channel, where we covered the original Evil Dead, and then we did the 2013, and obviously anticipation for Evil Dead Rise, and then we got to watch Shifted, and it was something that we had kind of talked about in the review, where we talked about this DIY, kind of going out there and having a passion for a story. And I think those are the best stories that are created, where someone initially has that idea and they want to it starts on paper, and then we get it in film. So, for me, anytime we get to talk to a director, it's great. But like for me, my heart's in writing. So anytime we get to see, story written by, my ears perk up a little bit. Yeah. I'm always curious, what is your writing habit look like, in terms of, do you try to designate seat time, or is it kind of just... Yeah. Collaboration wise, is that something where you guys sit down and decide on the story, or is it just kind of you go with it and kind of just compare notes?
Well, do you want to talk about Shifted specifically?
We'll talk about Shifted specifically, because it's different to anything that we've done before.
We do have a different style.
Yeah. Than the way that Shifted unfolded. Except I suppose the breakdown of the movie, we did that in the same way that we would break down every other movie.
So I'll tell you, we've written another couple screenplays since Shifted came out, and we do have a style that we like. We like to we actually do a writer's retreat. So we try to take usually 5 days. Like usually let's say we're traveling somewhere on a Thursday. We try to give ourselves like 4 or 5 hours in the car to go to an Airbnb, say, or whatever. And then during the ride, we're brainstorming and plotting and figuring things out. Usually Thursday night when we land, and maybe all day Friday, we're breaking out the scenes, and we're, et cetera, et cetera. We do something called story time, where we have all of our scenes laid out, and we actually run through the movie start to finish, adding dialogue, adding actions. We get, right into it and try to see if we can find
the holes and the mistakes that are inevitable. You don't want to get to the end of a script and then somebody reads it and they say, here's this huge plot hole. And you've been doing you've been putting the icing on the cake. You've been making the sentences beautiful. You've been working on the dialogue. It's kind of like we try and beat out the story before that stage as much as possible, before we start actually getting into the writing stage. Yeah. So yeah, about halfway through our writer's retreat, then we'll start writing, and we just share scenes. We just bang through the scenes, and by the time we come away from that sort of writer's retreat, we have our first draft. So because of the nature of our lives, it takes about 3 months of work and condenses it into 4 days. So that's kind of how we do that. But Shifted was a different story. Shifted, we couldn't finish a script. We couldn't finish a script to save our lives. So we just decided we were going to make a movie in a house. Originally, it was going to be a comedy. We were going to make a comedy about like a funeral that happens and a bunch of people come to the house and there's shenanigans that happen. And then we were like, no. Let's lean more towards like murder in the house. Let's trap people in the house. So how are we going to trap people in the house? Let's surround the house with monsters. It's not going to be about the monsters, but they're there, right? They're always there. It's always a factor in the story. So then we started and then we beat the entire story out. And then what we did was we just had the beginning, the middle, and the end of the scene. And we were just going to shoot it like that.
So we hired a bunch of actors, some people that we knew that had been with us for some time. And then we hired a bunch of additional actors, and everyone knew coming in, we're very excited. We're making an improv movie. Basically, right?
Day one.
We're not giving you guys, we're giving you rough dialogue. We're giving you rough scenes.
Yeah.
And
that did not work.
No, it did not.
It was a terrible idea. The first scene, we're sitting there. We got the cameras, we got the actors, everybody's in the room. We're going to do something fairly simple. But so we got 6 actors in the room. So there's a lot of people that are going to be talking. We need to get from A to B, guys. This is where we need to get. If this happens in the scene, all this funny business, that'll be amazing. Let's go with it. Let's see what happens. And it was, it just didn't work. Like, improv actors need to, they need to be improv actors. They need to practice a little bit. They need to practice with each other a little bit. So instantly we just could see that this was not going to work. And so luckily we had like backup pages that we had. So we quickly handed the pages out to everyone. We were like, all right, say this, just say this. And so then we would shoot through the day. And then that evening we would write the scenes, the actual dialogue in the script for the next day. And then we would shoot, and then we would write, and then we'd shoot. So that's how Shifted came about. Yeah. But it was just because we couldn't finish a script. We were totally blocked. We would write a script, but you just would hold it in your hands, and you'd be like, well, this is not the thing. This is
it's not done. It's not ready.
It's not ready. We can't do it. It's not right. We don't like. So out of frustration,
or we would write something that we couldn't shoot, right? So it would be too big. Right?
That's right.
So
it's got to be people in. It's got to be, when you're shooting indie, you got to put people in a location that you can control, that you have access to. What do we have? So we had a suburban house, so we made a movie in a suburban house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's really great. Like, I mean, I totally relate to the plot holes thing, because even though we're not established or anything with our films, but I will be sitting there like doing my mundane day job, just thinking in my head, just going like, I have a real steady job. I just put tools in tubes. I don't have to think about shit. So I'm just like, I'm just sitting there running scripts and ideas in my head. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there like, all right, yeah, I'm making stuff going. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm taking notes, I'm doing this. And then like, I'll hit a plot hole. And then I'm just like, well, shoot, I can't move. Like, I'm just stuck. Like, I don't know what the hell to do. And that's usually with our process, where I then shoot it over to Luke and I'm just like, work your magic, fix something.
It's good. It's good to have. Right. Yeah. It is great to have a partner to bounce things off of, because when you are on your own, you do get stuck, and then you're like, oh, and it's good to give somebody else a problem to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'll just call each other up and be like, okay, look, I don't know, but just think about this for a while and just see what you think for the next couple days, and then get back to me.
That niggling feeling that you get if you're looking at your own screenplay or your own story or whatever, you get like this funny niggling feeling, like it works. You kind of made it work, but you don't feel good about it.
Yes,
that's a big mistake. Don't move forward on that. That will end up being, you gotta make it so that it just feels right. So it feels 100% correct. Yeah.
I have done that where like I'll be writing, like following up on something, especially the short we're trying to do, where it's like it's midnight and I'm really about to fall asleep, and I'm just forcing myself. I got to get to this point. I write it out, and I'm just like, well, that I've satisfied my brain itch tonight. I'm going to bed. I wake up in the morning, just delete the whole thing, and then just go back to it. I'm just like, nope, that was yesterday's, Dylan. Let's do today's.
Yeah.
My next question for you guys, though, was the film, you know, in a lot of the press releases and things that we've gotten has been compared to the original Night of the Living Dead. I mean, shot in one location, it's very low budget. When it comes to its execution, that's really where a lot of people are pointing to. I was curious, with that, was that film a big inspiration for you guys? And if not, what were the films that were a big inspiration for you guys, or any piece of media, I should say?
Yeah, for me personally, it wasn't. I mean, Night of the Living Dead likely sits in the subconscious of everybody that watches movies, and it probably affected us. It wasn't consciously a decision on my part. I would say that
I think one movie that we had watched, which was pretty recent or pretty close to when we started writing, was Murder on the Orient Express, the new version with Johnny Depp, right?
Johnny Depp, yeah.
And you know, when we were just talking about what should we do, right? And we had we're batting around a couple ideas. Adrian had this great idea. I'll tell this story where he was like, "Okay, I have this great idea. A guy gets home. I think he was maybe breaking up with his girlfriend. Something was going on. And they're packing up. They're going to leave the house. Or her dad had died. They're coming home from the funeral, and it's sad. And he goes down into the basement, and there's like a ham radio, and he like hooks it up. And there's somebody on the other end of the line, and he's talking to him. And you kind of find out that he's talking to his wife's father in the past. And I'm like, bro, that's a movie. That's Frequency with Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid.
It felt like my idea. I was like, this is cool.
So we were anyway. So that we had. So then we were just talking about, well, you know, how can we just bring people to a house? And then we had recently seen Murder on the Orient Express, and we were like, there's a bunch of people stuck on a train, surrounded by snow. They can't go anywhere, and then suddenly people start to die. We're like, okay, what if we put monsters in the world, right? And so maybe that was a bit of the inspiration, honestly.
But for us, a lot of
I think The Shining too.
Yeah, 100% Shining. We love the idea of like being stuck in one place and being very psychological. For us, a lot of the joy of the story came from a person inside the house. People trapped inside a house, and one person is killing people inside the house.
Yeah, we actually used for I think it was after the first year of shooting, because we came back. So we shot for a year during the wintertime, when then we were editing, and then we came back. We didn't like the way our monsters were the first year. You can, I think, maybe see a little piece of the first year monsters, but not really. And then and we came back the second year, and we redid the monster masks. But in the interim, we had like a pretty super rough cut, and we actually used the score of The Shining, and we literally put it in the background of the movie, and then we sent it off to Taman, who's Adrian's brother in Spain, who did the original score for Shifted. But we wanted to give him a feeling, and so that's the score we used to give that kind of tone and that creep factor.
I love it. That's great.
And then we've talked about Screambox at the very opening here, but something that, you know, I think we're in this kind of transitionary, uncharted water almost as a creator, where consuming media has drastically changed within the last 10 years. And the accessibility to content in the horror space has it's drastically increased. As just a viewer, it's at your fingertips. With the creation of streaming services like Shudder and Screambox that are dedicated to telling scary stories, has that changed your outlook as a creator, knowing that, you know, a horror fan doesn't have to go to a video store down the road and try to pick out amongst a bunch of VHSs? It's just right there at the click of a button.
Yeah, well, I will say that we absolutely love it. We love that as the streaming platforms comes, it seems like there's just more availability. There's more places to watch, and what that means is that there's more spaces for creators to be able to make. Like, look, we're not, and we're all in the same boat here. We're not looking to buy a mansion. We would love to be able to just pay our bills through by making movies, right? And so
Absolutely.
the more streamers that come that appear, the more possible that becomes. Where someone is not a multi-millionaire because they make a movie, they're able to live life, but also they make movies, which is pretty good.
That's pretty great. And that's kind of our goal too. I mean, like, I think at this point in our lives, we're just like, it really doesn't matter to me if it gets in theaters. Maybe it plays a couple of, our local theaters, just, as like the hometown kind of thing. That's great. But like, if we can just get something of ours on a streaming service, like a Screambox or a Shutter, like that would mean the world. Because I mean, like at the end of the day, you're going to the audience that is going to appreciate it the most. You're getting it right in front of them.
Yeah. One thing is that something that I've noticed also for creators is that there is so much good stuff to watch in the world. Like there's so much stuff to watch. I can't keep up with all the new things that come out all the time. Like somebody, are you watching this? Are you watching? Like I don't have the time to watch all of these things, right? And by the same token, in making whatever you're going to make, it actually, because there's so much stuff, there's so much good stuff, you just kind of have to make the thing that's right for you, that feels good for you, the thing that resonates for you. And so it's kind of freeing because there is so much content out there. Just do what you want.
I love it. Yeah, it's definitely very inspiring.
Have a good poster and a good trailer.
Number one.
Because I'll tell you, like, I went over to, I was hanging out with my buddy Mike, who's William Winter in the movie. And we were just having a drink and flipping through to check what movies were on. And, you'd stop and you'd start a trailer and you'd be like, nope, no thanks. And you could kind of tell in the first like 20 or 30 seconds of the trailer if you thought like, okay, that like this looks kind of exciting, or it looks pretty good. I'll give it a watch. But I think trailer design is an art. And
don't be like I would say, don't be afraid to do it again.
Yeah, take your time.
Do it, because a lot of times, like I've even worked with directors who will cut the trailer one time, and then they say, "This is the trailer," and you say, "Listen, do a better job. You can do a better job. Just do the work. It's going to be one full day of work to be able to recut this trailer into something a little more."
Also, watch trailers for the movies that you get excited about.
Yeah,
watch the type of movie that you think you're making. Watch a bunch of trailers for those and be like.
And in fact, when you are, this is a little something. When you're writing the movie, if you can picture the trailer, you'll get some of your tentpole moments that you need in building your story.
Yeah.
So you're like, this is the movie that I'm trying to make. But if you can also picture the trailer, then you say, well, we need this moment. We need this moment. We need this moment. And you make sure you have those in your story. Like we came back and shot a trailer moment because we needed someone to say,
there's monsters in the world.
Yeah. Well, no, what did we needed to say? Why are you worried about those monsters out there when there's someone in this house killing us? So that's the movie. That is the whole, that is single line. We need that in the trailer. What is your movie about? Don't hide anything. Just put it on Front Street. And so we came back to shoot that line. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. Cause like, that's honestly, like I'm relating to a lot of the stuff you guys are saying with that, where it's like in my writing process, I tend to, do the same thing where it's like, I will think of like, as I'm going through, I'm just kind of like, well, this could be a trailer moment, or, this is a line that I absolutely need to be in here. And it's like, I think Luke could probably attest to this when I send you things. Cause I tend to do more like a treatment style where I'm just writing paragraph after paragraph. And then, I'll have a couple lines of dialogue here and there, but he's really the meat and potatoes of it. He refines it, gives these people more characters, as I'm more of the broad strokes. And it's like, I kind of see, like, do you see that kind of in our writing style there, Luke?
Yeah. I that's why I'm always so intrigued by collaboration, just because I think there are so many different techniques and so many different strengths amongst people as to, Dylan is kind of the broad strokes, and I like to kind of get real granular with dialogue, showing and not telling, and, just minimal as you can get with things. And I think that's honestly shifted when this was brought up. We covered it. We do a little show called the Sunday Scaries. And we had brought this up. We caught it on, I think it was Bloody Disgusting is where it popped up. And instantly I got intrigued by just the description because of the subgenres that were involved, you know, with the kind of like a slasher. It's also we're dealing with a creature feature in a sense, but you know, you had this threat on the outside, and I think that's what was most intriguing. And it's like kind of like balancing that. I'm always curious because it's like, you know, we've messed around with slashers and things, and I found myself, you know, going back and finding the runtime of when Jason Voorhees kills, you know, random camper 2 and 3 and 4,
making sure it correlates to your script. You're like,
yes, and it's like
when we wrote, which one was it? I'm just trying to think. Maybe Glade.
Yeah,
we had all the cards again. We get all the cards out on the table and we kind of block things out. Like, here's the midpoint. This is when we think, and so we would put these big red dots every time someone was dead. And so we were like, so you put the big dots on and you stand back and you look and you're like, are people dying often enough? Are they evenly spaced out enough?
The deaths.
There seems to be a big gap in this movie where no one dies. Let's fix that problem.
Kill someone there. Yeah, carry on. Sorry, continue, please.
Oh, yeah. You know, I was just basically getting onto the point of just like, it's so interesting to hear. Like, it feels kind of like one of those things where talking to more creatives, it's like, one of our big focuses, I guess I should say, on the channel is we like to have these kind of conversations with creatives where it's like we can actually pick your brain, just have a more laid back conversation, because I like to hear that like we're doing something okay, because obviously you guys have made a movie. It's out there. You know, you've made a few movies. You're getting your foot out there and you're actually showing it to people. And it's like we're just sitting here, just two dudes who are still trying to get a short film off the ground. And it's like, man, these guys, they sound like us when it's like we're doing that. And it's like it is reassuring to people that it's like that's what it takes to get it off the ground. Now, one of my follow-up questions for you on that was what did you guys shoot the film on? Like what was your camera, you know, and how long of a shoot was it?
Yeah,
let me tell you another problem.
Okay.
Yeah, so first, can I get some more
scotch?
Okay, what did we shoot on? A one?
Well, we shot it. We actually shot on. So we shot on 2 cameras, and 2 different camera packages. We had which was a mistake on our part, but it was what we had. Mm-hmm. So luckily we had someone really good to help us with color correction that kind of, you know, did some good work. Now we shot on the A7S II Sony, and then we shot also on a Panasonic GH5. We shot everything on Rokinon lenses, on primes. But we did have a major issue on our first like chunk of shooting. The first chunk of shooting that we shot on Vlog, and we did not expose correctly for Vlog. So Vlog is what you shoot with Panasonic. You got to overexpose everything. It was a dark movie. So, and then we were lighting for the DOP was lighting primarily for the Sony, which is very good in low light. And so the combination between the 2 cameras meant that we were in big trouble. We had huge grain issues when we were looking at what we had captured after that first chunk of shooting.
So we had 2 things. One, we reshot a bunch of scenes. We reshot a bunch of the Panasonic's scenes, which was great because actually
we got to fix the movie.
We did a much better job when we added some stuff. So that was kind of nice. But I will say, and then of course, Christos is a super pro.
Yeah.
And he
saved our bacon. The first year we shot for 2 weeks. Then we went away and we realized that the monsters were no good. As soon as we saw the monsters in 4K, because we were going to try and keep them soft, out of focus in the background, but in 4K you could just tell that it was no good, right? It was too clear. It was too crisp. We could tell that they weren't monsters, just people with head masks on. So we knew instantly that we were going to be coming back the next year because we needed snow. So we knew that was going to happen. So then we just shot whatever we could shoot that first year. We edited through that year, and then we came back for about 5 days. We came back for 5 days, and then we reshot the monsters and everything that we had to do. Then in that year, we made new masks for the monsters that would You know,
which was a blast.
which was good, yeah. And then after that, we still had some things that were wrong with the movie that needed some help. So we came back for another 2 days, 4 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
The next year.
So we
Again.
shot over 3 years.
We shot over 3 years, and then
so there is a scene in there, which, you know, if you watch it again, there's a scene in there with pieces from 3 different years.
I love
Which
that.
is pretty great,
Yeah,
because you know, you it's hard to tell. And in fact, the 3rd year we had some hilarious costumes. I mean, you don't want to do what we did if you can help it.
Yeah.
First of all,
Mistake.
shooting in the winter, you know, and man, we've shot it a couple times in the winter, and you're hoping for, like, we live up in Canada, you're hoping for snow everywhere, and it's muddy and
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
gross.
snow, and you're like, stupid. So anyways, costumes. So we kept most of the costumes. We kept all the zombie stuff, you know, packed away in a box and things like that. And most of our characters, they brought their own clothes. So they brought their clothes home with them. And but Derek's costume, the killer's costume, we were pretty sure we put it in like a very specific bag.
Oh,
you know,
gone.
Somehow after year 2, we lost it.
Yeah.
We completely lost it. So year 3, we're shooting again. We can't find it anywhere. He can't find it. So we're like, okay, we got to go and resource the exact same costume.
Oh my God.
And we got pretty close, but
we bought a lot of sweaters. A lot of orangey, burnt orange sweaters.
You'll see. If you watch Derek every time.
No, just shut up. Jason Green, shut your mouth, man.
I'm very curious to take a look at that now, because honestly, yeah, you guys have a bang up color correctionist, because like that's you can't tell. Like 3 years worth of shots in one scene is like insane. I couldn't even imagine trying to color correct all that.
Well, here's the thing, because I have a limited knowledge of color correction, right? I have color corrected other people's movies before, but when I looked at this movie, I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I don't think I have the time and the patience to like really fine tune everything, get everything where it needs to be. And even we had another color correction human that tried to help us a little bit, and we were like, I don't think this guy can do it either. So we ended up finding this gentleman in Toronto called Christos, and he was
check out his IMDb. He works on all. He just the one he was working on in between the years that we were shooting is called The Immaculate Room. On Netflix. Everywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, we learned a lot about working with professionals, because we also worked with a professional with the sound design, and that was an absolute blessing. Like, man, if you can get a professional who works in the industry to help you along your way, it's worth it.
I can imagine so, because I mean, even just the limited stuff we've done with our shorts, it's like I've been like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna, you know, shoot just what I need for sound, and then I'm just gonna, you know, Foley in everything that I need, and then you actually get down to it, and it's like, oh fuck me, I need to do like all these footsteps and everything, and just a little breath here. It's just
Foley's the best. I love Foley.
Foley's
great. I love it.
But let me tell you, the guy that we got, Steve, he's on another level, man.
Yeah.
Like, he never missed a thing. You know, the first time I listened to the first, maybe like, I don't know, he sent through 2 or 3 minutes or something. I was just like, oh, because there was some stabbing motions and the plate scene, you know, that when he puts the plate
in the mouth.
Yeah. You're watching that for the first time with his
sound effects,
and you're like, oh.
It takes it to another level. It's different when you're working with someone and it's their day job.
And they know it in and out.
That's right, and they do it every day, and they're really good at it. And they're like, indie guy will do you a little bit of a favor, and it's still expensive. For us, it's still hugely expensive, but it's totally worth it. If you can find the cash, it's worth it.
Do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you guys going to shoot on? What are you shooting your short on?
I mean, it would be probably my Canon T5i, or you have the 70D, right, Luke?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we're still rocking just that kind of stuff, but like, you know, that's what we got. That's what we have on hand. You know, the thing that kind of really took us out of the mindset would just be like, Robbie Banfitch shot his film the Outwaters on a Canon, and we were just like, what the hell? Like, are you serious? It's just like, you just got to be creative with this from what we understand and stuff. But like, I've shot with bigger cameras, Panasonics and stuff before. Like we've got a buddy who's a little further away from us now, but you know, he used to loan it out to us with a couple of our shorts, and it does take it up a notch, man. Like, especially when it comes to the like, you know, your depth of zoom and everything, and just like, or your field of focus. I mean, because like, holy shit, like the Canon, it's so shallow, but like with a nice camera, it's like, well, I can do whatever the hell I want. I can move this thing around and everything's fine.
Yeah, everything is great. Yeah, and that is because we actually the Panasonic was a Micro Four Thirds, but the Sony was a full frame. So the Sony's depth of field was gorgeous. You know, he'd put on a 20mm lens, and he would still have, you know, you'd still be able to tell depth. Whereas on the Micro Four Third, you're putting on a wide lens, and then everything is in focus. It's you got super digital. It looks super digital. So like, really, the beauty of those full frame cameras is the fact that you can have a 25mm lens, and you can still tell, you know, that there is depth there.
Absolutely. And then Luke, you want to move on with your next question there?
Oh yeah, sure. You guys had talked about the monsters a little bit, and kind of the process with that. I know, you know, I think looking at films that have a smaller budget, some people tend to shy away from CGI or practical effects just because the budget isn't there. Watching Shifted, you know, I think there were some very good camera techniques where it was like, you know, you said you kind of had them soft, and it's like, oh, well, you know, they're aware, and, you know, they kind of want to create that mystery rather than staying straight focused on the monsters, which for me, I absolutely adored. I was just curious of what that process was. Was that something when you were creating the story? I know they were the outside threat. Was that something where it was like, you were hesitant a little bit to inject the creatures in there because you weren't sure how that process was going to go, or what was going to even be available to you when you guys were getting into actually filming?
What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We actually had, like, even when we first wrote the movie, I don't know what you're laughing about, so you can jump in, but when we first wrote the movie, we actually had a whole backstory for the monsters. So we actually, you know, we know why the monsters are there. We know what makes them monsters, and you know, we had a whole plan, and you know, we in even one of our podcasts, I even think we go into the talking about how they come about, and how where they come from, and how they move over the head and poke out the eyes and rip the mouth apart. And so we actually did some we had a concept artist like help us with some sketches and things like that to really
so we did have the mythology. We totally had the mythology of the monsters down, but we did say early on, we were like, we don't want to see the monsters because we are not good at monsters.
No.
And we don't have money to be good at monsters. We would love to have a partner in 3D that could help us take things to the next level, because I haven't done it before, but I feel like the magical place you want to be is like a combination between practical and 3D, where you kind of have the practical doing its thing, but then you're kind of just accentuating different features with 3D. So I think that's where things, but for us, we were just like, they'll be in the background, they'll be you know, out of focus.
The first year we just got
skull caps
and painted them gray, dead sort of looking, lots of blood, and we knew that we weren't going to show them.
That was always the plan. The shark in Jaws was always was always what we were aiming for.
But Adrian, you know, Adrian is you know, a great editor, great compositor, and so, you know, you see the creature where he kind of is silhouetted and the crab legs come out and stuff like that. I mean, you know, we kind of put that together, and
obviously it's a conscious move. You're like, he's got to be in silhouette. So,
Mhm.
So you don't really
So-
see what's going on.
so that we can do that shot because we can't do it otherwise. It's
I love it.
So yes, specific decisions, but based on
yeah.
what we can do.
What we can do. That's right. And I actually, a lot of people might. Sorry,
You're good.
A lot of people think that when you're put into a box, it's sort of like restricting your creativity. But I think it's actually the opposite. If you are put into a room with 2 chairs and someone says, "You better make me a movie," the creativity that's going to flow is going to be pretty astounding. You're going to like make up a fantastic movie based on the parameters that you have on the outside. So I think being restricted is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, this is where you got to play and do your best. You know what I mean?
Now, if we had a good CGI partner, we would do other things.
Absolutely. No, I can imagine that, with the proper tools, CGI, even if you guys had like somebody like let's say you guys got lucky and found some kid coming out of college who wanted to do the film and was like a Rob Bottin, where he's like, I'll just make the whole damn monster coming out of his face practically. Like, everybody wishes they could do that. Everybody wishes they could find that kid who's like, I'm going to work myself to death until, everything's perfect.
For you, for your vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, we got to be realistic,
I don't think we're going to get into that, but sorry.
I will say, I think one of my criticisms, I would say selfishly, for the film that I threw in my review was that we didn't see much of the monster. And, I totally get that from the story perspective, but I'm a creature feature nut. And I'm just like, I see that poster, I see that, I'm like, I want to know so much more about what the fuck's going on there. 100%. I do. And I think, I want to err on the caution of spoilers, because I want people to be able to watch this and then watch the film. So it's like, I really liked the sequence in which we kind of get into somebody just kind of airing on it, experiencing what's going on when you build up to becoming a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that was probably the biggest highlight of the movie for me, because I was like, this is really getting me like intrigued with the creature, and like I'm so curious to see just the fact that you guys had the foresight to have somebody ask the person questions like, how do you feel right now? Like, what's going on? Like, it's survival mode. It's like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if I'm experiencing this, what are you feeling right now? So I know, because it's like, when somebody's sick, it's like, if it's like, hey, what are your symptoms right now? Because if I start feeling that, I'm gonna start freaking out. Like, I really appreciated that about that. Now,
thank you.
One of the things I want to transition into is kind of an odd question, has nothing to do with the creatures, but I was just curious, like, as independent filmmakers like ourselves that we would like to be, obviously you have good days and bad days on set. I want to know, what was the hardest day on set for you guys, and what was the absolute best day on set?
Jay, you want to tell the hardest day, or I'll tell the hardest day?
Well, you tell the hardest day, so
right.
Just in case I don't know which one it is.
No, so basically we had a situation where there is a scene in the movie where one of the actresses was going to kiss another actress. Mm-hmm. She was going to they were going to just start making out a little bit, and then she was going to see the lump on the back of her neck, and so it was that scene. Anyway, it was right in the middle of the Me Too movement,
mm-hmm.
And so we just had a whole lot of pushback with regards to 2 ladies getting jiggy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of conversations on set.
Let me just say as well that you guys will watch it and you'll know the scene because it's just changed slightly, but the character.
Yeah.
You can tell when you watch the movie, this character uses her, like, that's part of her character. She uses her sexuality to
get what she wants.
And when you're watching the movie, you'll know what we're talking about. And for the actors, there were no surprises. Okay, so like we weren't springing this on the people that were taking part. So it ended up being some other kind of
outside influence.
Yeah.
But the thing that is difficult is when everybody is on the same page when you start shooting, and then when you get right to the scene, and then somebody puts on the brakes, and you're like, what is happening? Because you make it, Now we had to adjust, and we had to roll with it, and we had to like talk to everybody and make sure everybody was okay, and there were necessary things that we needed to do, but it's difficult. It's just difficult to put because the train is rolling. We're going, we're shooting, we're going, and then somebody's like, "Hang on, stop everything.
Yeah,
we need to have a discussion and see what's going on." So that's difficult. Now I feel like we did the right thing. By the end of, everybody was feeling good after that. Like everybody was okay with the way that we moved forward, but it is difficult.
Yeah, it's unexpected roadblocks. I can definitely see that. That's why I like.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, the making a feature, making anything, but making a feature is full. You are going to have problems. There's just no way around it. You're on a time frame. You're not making your time. That's fine. You got a budget. Maybe you're going over your budget and you're talking about things or whatever, or you've got,
or your lead actor is like, I'm out of here, I'm done,
man.
And it's halfway through the movie, like day 7 of day 14, he's like,
okay,
bye.
That was a different movie, guys.
Yeah, no, but it
what? This is a different movie, but literally we were right in the middle of shooting, and it was like, I'm done. And so then you're hours and hours of phone calls, and
terrifying.
Yeah, so stuff can happen. Sometimes we get testy with each other. Sometimes, not very often. It happens. We work pretty well together. So, but I'll tell you, like, if you guys are, kind of your partner team and you're making something, I will say something that we kind of learned early on, and I think, put into practice all the time, is when we're gonna have a discussion about a problem, we step away from everyone else. So something to think about. If you've got a producer director team, things get hectic, or maybe your DOP, maybe there's something wrong, and you need to have a difficult discussion about either you're not going to make your day, or something is wrong with the shot, or you need an actor's not doing something you need them to do something.
You need to tell someone quietly, stop being a fucking asshole.
Something.
But you got to say it quietly. Take them away.
Take them away. And it's important. It's important because then we can have like an argument or whatever, and then
be done, and then you
back and
carry on shooting.
Because the one thing you want is for all your crew, your cast, when they look to you, they're asking a question, you got the same answer, and you're moving forward. And that's it. Yeah.
What's the best day?
I mean, the scene that you did was pretty great.
Oh, the at the front door.
Yeah.
That
was pretty great. Adrian, you guys, hope that you saw that he played a big part. And I will tell you, I think, when did we shoot it? Like day 2?
Mm-hmm.
So
it was early on.
Pretty early on. And he had been preparing for quite a while. He wrote the thing. But I will tell you, we did the first day or two, we did some easy stuff. Pretty, nothing too intense. And Adrian kind of had this plan. He was like, I'm going to do my scene before we start getting into all the intensity. And he just ramped it up to 11, cried, got all into it. And literally everybody that was watching was just like, oh shit. And it made all the other actors be like, oh, okay, I can elevate my game.
I tried my best.
Leading by example. That's
trying.
Yeah.
A lot of times with amateur actors, a lot of times what will happen is they think they're giving you 100%, but they are giving you 60%, and it just doesn't feel like 60% to them. Like if you were to play it back for them on the camera, they'd be like, oh, I felt like I was shouting. You're like, no, when you shout on camera, you got to lose it. You got to go to what feels like 120. You got to go to those emotional spaces that in fact you don't go to normally. Nobody's walking around screaming and shouting, but in this scene, you got to scream and shout. And so what feels like 100 is not. And so I feel like it's a good idea to like show people 100. Like we did a trailer for this concept show called Postman. And at one stage, I just had to scream in someone's face, and you scream so much that like
It shocks them.
It shocks everybody in the room, and then it just shows them this is what you're allowed to do. This, I suppose, we give you permission to go crazy.
Very good point.
I love that slap scene.
There's
so many. I love so many pieces. Like I don't want to like miss anybody's moments, but when we were, because I'll like I'll just sit off to the side and watch the monitor. So I get to part of my job is like because we share a lot of responsibilities. And even though I'm the producer, I still watch the monitors. I watch for problems, and I mean we're pretty indie still. So but sometimes I get to see what you're going to see in the movie, right? So I'm watching the big, and they went for it. And when she slapped her the first time, I was like, oh, that was great. And then she slapped her again. I was like, oh, it was so great because they were pretending at first. And Elisa was like, Alyssa, just go for it.
Go for it. Do it properly.
So good.
She slowly faded from that as we carried on doing takes. She was like, do it for real. And then she was like, do it again.
Ease up a little bit.
Like, okay, easy. Okay, that's enough.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
There was lots of great moments for sure. But
yeah. For me, my favorite time is the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah.
Once you like got everything, and you're like,
big days.
A big day is done, and everybody you're like, you just feel excellent. The footage is copying over to the hard drives, busy dumping, and you can just decompress for a couple of minutes before you're like,
thinking about the next one.
Yeah.
I got it.
We were very often
late.
We were very often starting at 8. Now we wouldn't be rolling at 8, but that was kind of the call time, and you'd be 10 or 11, and then you'd be like, okay, or later, and then you'd be like, all right, let's go to bed so we can get up and do it again, which is amazing.
I love it.
You never jump out of bed quite as quickly as when you're shooting.
Yeah,
it's the best.
It is. It's true. There is something that just because you got to do it. You got to do this thing. You've strapped this backpack onto your back. Now you got to carry it up the mountain. So get out of bed and get going. Yeah.
I definitely feel that on a lot of our shorts in the past. What we've done is just like, especially that first day, I'm nervous, but like usually I feel like Luke and I, once we're actually on set, we're getting things moving. It's like, okay, like we're in this, let's go. And then when we had like one of our shoots, we had a really successful day, and Luke goes home and he cuts together just silent footage of what we shot, just in a real rough cut, and he sends it to me, and I'm just like, that actually panned out great. Like, holy fucking shit, like this is awesome. So it was just like that. I was excited to get back the next day, and then of course the next day was just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and we just were like, oh man, it's tough. It's November. Everybody's freezing their ass off, and I got them covered in corn syrup. What am I gonna do?
Oh, yeah, that's tough. When it's cold and you got blood on the hands.
So, Luke, you're an editor as well?
Yeah, I do a multifaceted things, I suppose. I went to school for like video editing and radio and stuff like that, so I have a background in it. It's not my like true passion. I'm competent at best, I suppose, but I'm more of the writer, I guess. Is really, I adore just being able to sit down and go off in your own worlds and then just type out pages or live in different space like that for a few hours and kind of just escape is really my whole thing. Plus I'm not out in the cold freezing my ass off and covered in
most of our stories now are interior projects. We're like, let's just stay inside. Let's just do
like one time, like this one day we were. So I'll just tell you that I was a camera operator. Not a camera operator. I was a camera assistant in Vancouver. I was working in Vancouver, and I was on a movie. I was just a day call on a movie called Rapturepalooza, and it was like, I don't know, it's a comedy with a whole bunch of human beings that people know, but like I was standing next to the camera waiting, because you do a lot of waiting, you know, for the camera placement or whatever's going to happen. And there were like hundreds of people just running around doing all sorts of things. And I just thought to myself, every single person here is running around based on what one person in their robe wrote at their computer. Like, you know, the alien comes out of the clouds or whatever it is, you know, was this guy in a robe doing this writing. And now there's 100 people here who are just like rushing. And that was the day I started writing right after that, because to me, that's where the magic is. Like, obviously the magic happens all the way down the pipeline, but like it starts on the page, and that it's kind of sacred, right? And when it's just black and white and text, it's kind of a beautiful thing.
It's pure.
Like, it is very pure. Like, you are really introducing, as you move down the process, you are introducing all these, you know, outside elements to it, you know, and hopefully people add to it, you know, and make it better. But it's terrifying, because when it's on the page and it's in your brain, it's a pretty beautiful thing.
Oh yeah. And Luke, you want to hit him with your next question there?
Yeah. I'm curious, because we've done our short films, and you know, I usually take lead on doing scripts and everything like that. You know, it's one thing to have it on the page; it's another thing to have it visually right in front of you as you're piecing it together and seeing that finished product. For you guys, like, how was that feeling for you in terms of the gratification that you get just being able to see it, you know, just being able to read that dialogue on the page and then seeing it show up? Maybe not 100% was shifted the way that turned out, but just being able to see it like cinematically, from you have this 90-page black and white script, and now we have it coming to life with these people saying these words and doing these things.
It is one of the most powerful feelings in the entire world, to have something in your brain, to then write it onto a page, and then see it come into existence, is the miracle of making movies.
Especially, you know, you get some actors, and when you write it, you have something in mind. You know, you have a delivery in your brain, right? And yes, if you're writing and shooting the movie, it might look the way you want it to look, you know, but sometimes you get an actor or multiple actors, and the way that they deliver what you've written into the character is
so much better.
Like, so much better. Just you're
like,
sometimes
whoa.
you F up and you got to call a technical foul. You got to be like, sorry, we're going to redo because I was watching your performance and I didn't see that there was a camera leg in here or something, whatever. Because, man, sometimes you get something so magical. You know, I mean, I love Mike and Derek, Winter and Derek. One of the guys that I love is the guy that plays Frankie. He's a friend of ours, Zach Parsons. And he's just, I mean, he's been in every movie that we've made. And you got to just watch this guy. His delivery is so wild. He will, you know, everybody's hustling and bustling. And Zach will just, okay, you're done shooting. He'll just like go off and sit on the couch and just like put his headphones in and just chill. And then he'll come out and deliver something in a way with these pauses that you're not expecting. And I mean, I love that guy.
Yeah. No, it is a wonderful thing on the page, onto the screen. And then I will say that, and then into the edit. Like, our editing didn't stop, you know, once it was shot. We had major story changes in the edit.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So initially it was going to be a murder mystery, and we sort of tried to place a bunch of red herrings through the script, and nobody knew who the killer was, and then we were going to find out at the end. And we actually edited that movie together.
That is a version of the movie.
That is a version of the movie that doesn't work, right?
And that no one will see.
Because what happened is that we didn't have it in the script. Like a murder mystery, I think you really need to focus on what is in the script and what is being left out of the script, and the writing has to be so tight at the beginning. And because we were so loosey-goosey with where the writing was, it didn't really work as a traditional murder mystery.
And one thing that happened was, so we sat down and we did a screening of this cut of the movie.
Okay.
You know, when you watch the movie, you get to a place where the tension, like it starts to build, right?
Mm-hmm.
It starts to build and get a little bit more hectic. You know, that people are walking around the house. They're going to cut whoever steps near them, right? Because everything is, ramped up to 11. So the movie's moving. And then in the version that we had originally made, when the killer reveals himself and you find out who the killer is for the first time in this murder mystery version, we jumped back and did a bunch of flashbacks. And so the movie kind of, was moving up.
Pace.
And then just slowed right down. And so we, it's funny, but I watched a TikTok. I don't want to say that TikTok was the inspiration or anything, but I watched a TikTok about the famous Alfred Hitchcock bomb scene discussion, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard this, but he's like, you can have a 12-minute discussion with people talking about baseball, or you can show that there's a bomb underneath the table and then pan up and let the people have a 12-minute conversation about baseball. And the whole time you're on edge because you know who the killer is. You know that the bomb is there. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, what if we just put it on Front Street right at the beginning of the movie, brought everyone in, told them who the killer was, and then everybody got to watch the movie with this knowledge.
Yeah, and so I suppose the tension of the movie changed then to like, now you're watching this killer interact with these people and seeing the way that, he kind of manipulates or like just avoids, detection. So that's what the movie became. Once again, out of necessity. So the writing of the movie changed in the edit a huge amount.
That's wild. I've always heard stories about that, really, where it's like editing can, really make or break your film. And it's kind of crazy to see how often that actually does happen, where it's like, with especially indie productions, where it's like, with these bigger tentpole films, like I'm sure, I doubt there was much deviation from Mario, and that's an animated movie, page 1 to, the last day of editing. Yeah. But with Shifted, it's almost like you guys watched your movie and you were just like, let's switch this up. Like this seems like this might be stronger. And you guys played with it. And it's like, that is, again, we talk about filmmaking. It's like, that's pure. That's something where it's like, you have that luxury almost of being able to do that and actually see, well, we have this movie one way, but what if we did it like this? And then you kind of get to almost peek into different realities and say like, okay, this is what we want to stick with. This is where our heart of hearts is. And that's, I love it.
It really was. Honestly, it was wild. The change of movie.
Yeah.
With all the same footage,
Yeah.
Completely changed the movie.
Because we just
completely shifted, if you want to.
Yeah. We moved Derek, his murder. So we have a killing in the first, few minutes of the movie. You see the origin story of this guy. Yeah. And so it's a big difference from like just starting in the house.
Yeah. It was a bit jarring when I first turned on the movie and I saw the trailer and I knew just from the Bloody Disgusting article what was going on. And I'm just like, oh, this guy's killing people. Like I knew there's a serial killer, but I'm like, we're just showing that right up front. So it's like, and I mean, for some people, it's like it might not work 100% for them, but like I definitely get it when people look at it and they're like, oh, I enjoy that. Like, I like to see these people interact with it. And it's like, you get that, you kind of open it up to having a different mindset, I guess is what I would say when it comes to watching the movie, where it's like, it catches you off guard. You're like, okay, yeah, like I'm into it. Cause there's going to be people who are going to just flip this on based on that poster alone. It's like, they're going to see it on Screambox. They might not read a description. Cause I've done that. I do that with every crappy shark movie I watch. I'm like, hey, there's a shark on that cover. It's eating somebody. I'm gonna watch it. I don't know what's going on.
I'm in.
But yeah, I'm into it, you know. So it's like me being a creature feature guy. I'd see that poster if I wasn't covering this, and I'd be like, oh, you know what? That's cool. A little crab monster coming out of someone's mouth. Let me watch it, and that's going to catch them off guard. And I think that's very, very cool to hear that it was never the intent to do it like that. You know, I think that's very interesting.
We actually did have at our premiere. We had our premiere in Buffalo at Buffalo Dreams Film Festival, and we did have a guy that was like, you know, what would have been cool is if you would have done it as a murder mystery and never told us who the killer was until the end. We were like, yeah,
cool. Yeah.
I mean,
at one point,
we thought about that. We tried. We just failed.
No, I love it. And so I guess that kind of brings me to my final question for you guys. So when I was watching this, you know, obviously we live in the luxury of like now, you know, independent films are becoming a bit, I won't want to say easier to make, but they're more accessible. You know, you got cameras, you can do this. You can have a film like Shifted that's made, and I believe it was it $70,000 your guys' film was made for? So it's like,
it's a little bit more, but yeah,
it's a launching point. So it's like you'll hop off there, and you know, obviously a big company like Screambox picks it up, and then you know the hope is to keep maybe making horror films, I imagine. You know, I know you guys have a varied background, but maybe make some more. We saw something earlier last month with Malum come out, where the director Anthony DeBlasi made a movie called Last Shift. You know, it was made on a smaller budget. He saw it, you know, he did what he could with it. He was happy with it, but then he knew there was more story to tell. And, you know, one of the things that I put in my review of it, and at least my side of it, was I was really interested to see this world continue. And I have to ask you guys, I mean, you don't have to, you know, give me every single detail because obviously we want to be surprised, but is there in your back of your guys' mind, is there ever going to be an intent to, you know, maybe revisit the world of Shifted, whether that be a sequel or maybe you come back to it like Malum, where you're like, we got a bigger budget, let's do this story again, and let's actually do the creature effects like I had thought in that one scene, or let's do this, like let's take it up that notch, you know? Is that something that has crossed your guys' mind at all, or are you thinking completely new original ideas from here on out?
No, 100%. We are thinking of making the next one. We originally sort of built it as a trilogy, but I think the idea is that we will squish it into one other movie, and that is the movie that I would say, is written. The first draft is written, and so we would like to make it. We would like to continue in the world of Shifted. Yeah, that's the draft there. So anyway, we would like to see this, and if you never know what happens in life, but if at any point we got an opportunity to carry on with this world, we would absolutely take it. We did enjoy building the world, and we enjoyed building the monsters, and we didn't really get a chance to dive into the monster stuff
and to why they're there. And
to why they're there. Like, we would like to explore this world a little further, and we would like to explore the monsters a lot further, actually.
Yeah. So I'll you know, and we've talked about it a little bit before, but the sequel kind of kicks off, as you guys can imagine, with our main characters heading to the place where the guy that brains Winter with a shovel. They're heading to get him, and that guy has taken over a facility and has a group of people that he now cares for. So he becomes kind of like this,
bit of
like a Negan style character that's
he's got a bit of a community around him. And so, the second movie, it centers around Derek, our lead character, entering this community. Yeah. And then ultimately Winter following him into this community.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. Because
and again, you do find out exactly what's causing the monsters, everything that's behind the apocalypse.
Everything is resolved. Yeah.
We deal with everything. Yeah.
I like it. Because that's one of those story threads, you know, again, I'm not going to say specifics, but it is one of those story threads where I saw that and I was just like, ooh, I'm intrigued. Yeah. And then, you know, obviously the rest of the movie happens. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely like, I need a little bit more. I'm like,
We would
you
like to
know,
explore it for sure.
We would like to give you more.
yeah, it's like one of those things where, you know, I had my criticisms of the film, but it is one of those things where I was very clearly like, I want to spend more time in this world. I want to see what happens on a broader scale. Cause, you know, it's like for me, just because, you know, I was, you know, I might not be the person who's like into the whole like we're centering it in one house thing, you know. But like that doesn't mean that I'm like I'm not interested. I'm interested to see what these creatures are and what's going on with the people outside of this house. Because like I think that the fact that you guys could have easily just done a zombie virus and done that, but no, you took the time to make something unique, make something I've never seen before, and make me want to go like
It's
that's
pretty unique.
what
I'll
I
tell you
need,
what.
you know. That's what I want to see something that's not just, you know, like The Walking Dead, you know. Great successful show, seen zombies. I want something new, and I think that that's honestly the biggest thing that I can take away from the film is it gives you a different threat, and the fact that, you know, you don't get too deep into it, it just leaves me wanting more. So it's like the second shifted to, or whatever you guys call it,
The
is
shifting. I'm
the
joking.
shiftening. Okay.
We don't have a
We
title
will not
yet.
call it the shifting.
I will say,
if you come up with a good
we
title,
are-
you let us know.
I'll
we
email it to
are
you.
really struggling with a Shifted 2 title because if we thought we were definitely making a sequel, maybe we would have thought about the title Shifted. Originally, I will say, originally the title was Winter's Wonderland.
Huh.
And it was supposed to be like really snowy. But then we had no snow. And so we were like,
Canada's
why are we going to
dumb.
call it winter
What
or
is it?
whatever? And we still had the guy named it. But anyways.
But I love the you know, thematically the title does tie in, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like at the end you're like, I get it, I understand it, so I love it a lot. Luke, you want to hit him with your final question?
Yeah. So like, you know, we've talked about it. This community here with being accessible to a lot new content. We have Screambox that's curated specifically for horror. And you know, I think, you know, decades upon decades ago, horror was looked at as a genre that you were breaking into because it was cheap. You know, you tell a story, and then as a director, as a creator, you have aspirations to move on from that because horror at that time was a dirty word. Now I think there are so many intriguing creators setting up shop, so to speak, in the horror genre, and the horror community just has this outpouring. I mean, you have so many subscribers to something like Screambox that are just want to consume horror. So I guess my final question for you guys is, what does the horror community mean to you?
Yeah, well, I'll kick it off. I mean, we didn't really start out as horror guys. You know, like I would say that primarily what we love the most is world building. Like that is our favorite thing to do. You know, if you ever get a chance to go to our YouTube, you know, you find the trailer for Postman. It was something that we worked on a while ago. We love drama and comedy and action and thrillers. Like when we write, we don't really ever pigeonhole, but the one thing we do love is a lot of tension. And there are a really great community kind of where we live as well. And we've kind of watched some of the teams that are around us grow and really do great things in the horror space, kind of where we are. And you know, there is a place for it, right? Like there's not a community that loves, you know, romance movies. There's lots of people that love romance movies, but there isn't like romance movies, you know, Reddit threads and like a group. I mean, okay, look,
you're gonna make someone mad.
Maybe there are, but I don't see those. But I do see, you know, hundreds of horror groups about all kinds of different genres and slasher horror groups and, you know, torture, whatever. Anyways, but it's a great place to play, right? Because again, you don't necessarily even have to be like, we're horror movie makers. You can be all about a story. You can add some thrills and chills and scare the shit out of people. But you, at the end of the day, you're trying to like pull people in, get them to the edge of their seat. And yeah, horror is an amazing way to do it.
Allow people to believe your world. The most beautiful thing about horror for me is the monsters in any horrific movie are like free of any inhibitions. They can just act on their immediate desires and wishes, and so there's an aspect of that really pulls you into wanting to watch monsters, because all of us, there's an aspect of ourselves that we wish we could just act on our own inhibitions. Whenever we felt something, we just did it. And that's one of the beautiful things about not only the creatures in Shifted or the monsters that in any movie, but like watching someone like Derek, who is a killer, and just, he acts on his emotions. And so, that is a beautiful thing for me.
But I mean, we've got to hit a bunch of horror film fests, which have been amazing. We went to a huge one in Calgary, which was literally set up inside this massive
warehouse
horror
park.
Yeah, there was haunted houses and like axe throwing and like people everywhere are dressed up and all kinds of creepy stuff. And there was our movie playing with others. And we met these guys in our region who we never would have met, who they do horror themed like VHS garage sales. So they go out into the middle of the woods and everybody shows up at these like GPS coordinates, bringing all their horror VHS tapes. And they're like, come and bring your Shifted movie and your posters and come and talk to the people that love horror and want to talk about, so here I am like with our, little USB boxes that we make and I'm talking to all these people that just all they do is watch horror movies all day long, and get a chance to kind of meet new people and new crowds. I will say that horror people kind of get together, and I mean there is definitely some sci-fi and fantasy guys as well, but they're pretty huge. But yeah, it's pretty great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Again, guys, this has been a wonderful treat. Getting here to talk to Jason and Adrian here. And I just want to give you guys the floor for a minute. Let our folks here that watch us know where they can find you guys and, what to keep an eye out for. Obviously, we got Shifted coming out on the 18th, which as of recording this is tomorrow. But as time you're watching, this is already available for you. So definitely check out Screambox. So,
I mean, Screambox is so cheap, guys. I mean, if you're watching this show,
go and get Screambox. Come on.
Like,
don't be stupid.
It's, I looked at, because we don't get it in Canada. Okay. So maybe we will, have some VPN action. I don't know, but we did look it up the other day. Come on. It's so cheap. Just go and get Screambox. You get to watch all the stuff, watch other things, watch Shifted. You can find us at, there's a little,
right there.
Right there. Table Forest Films on Facebook, on Instagram. We don't social too much, guys. We do sometimes. We tell people what's going on. But come there. You can interact with us. We will chat you up. Go to our YouTube. It's also Fable Forest Films. You can watch our trailers for our other stuff. You can watch our first 2 movies for free. I Was a Greenhouse, Bickerman's Grove. He's laughing, but go watch the the comedic ghost Shakespearean comedy that we made, and you get to watch Derek Lackenbauer and Zach Parsons in an earlier feature.
But listen, I want to see your short films, guys. Come on now.
we're gonna do it. We're definitely motivated. We've been writing. We've been getting things ready to go. I think that it's almost too perfect. We start this horror podcast last year. We're getting things going. We're getting to meet a lot of cool people like you guys. They're actually making things happen and getting your films out there. And then, literally in our backyard, there's an Akron, Ohio horror film festival. It's kind of like, man, we
You know
got to
what?
do this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You guys make your short, and then let us watch it, and we will kick off our podcast again someday, and we'll have you guys on as guests.
beautiful. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Full
That'd be
circle.
wonderful. Now we are committed, Luke. We cannot
Yeah,
mess up.
100%.
Guys, you can do it, and you know what?
Yeah, you can
do a feature
do
too.
it. You know,
Like you just there.
one rock at a time.
That's right. There's only one way to eat an
One-
elephant.
yeah, one step at a time.
One bite at a time.
That's
as Mike
right.
likes to say.
Just got to keep rolling. And you guys are young. I don't know. You guys look like you're just, come on.
Yeah,
It's true. As you guys get older, like us,
Start
get
slowing,
tired.
Start slowing
everything
down.
slows down.
it's 9 o'clock. You're like, I gotta go to bed, but I'm on
Yeah.
set. So
Why am I still doing awake? This is ridiculous.
I love it. All righty. Well, that wraps us up for the interview. Thank you so much, guys, for checking this out. If you stuck through the whole thing, again, a lot of very valuable information in there, a lot of really fun nuggets. I just, now that I can speak about it, I am blown away that, that was all fixed with color grading, because I genuinely did think this thing was all shot with one camera.
Yeah.
Like going back and looking at it on Screambox later on, it's just one of those things where you're like, wow, I cannot believe that they actually swapped cameras, and just the amount of tweaking and everything that they did year to year with the effects and the monsters themselves and everything. It's just really shows that, they had the drive and the ingenuity to just go back and, hit this film again and again until they were happy with it. And, to be completely honest, did Shifted work for me entirely? No, I left a lot to be desired there. But I think that the story and everything behind this movie is truly one of the most interesting stories of the year for me so far, as just looking at these two who had a vision, went out and made the movie. And not only that, but got it on a streaming service like Screambox.
And to be someone who likes to screenwrite and likes to have it on the page and have everything thought out, ready to go, I can't imagine the stress that it took from, going page to page daily, trying to be like, okay, we're shooting this next, so let's get this down on a page so people have, that to work from. Because, thinking, we can improv some of this stuff and then realizing that that's not really going to work out. And we really have to have some set pieces to go off of here. It's something where it was like stressful for me to hear, but then you get so much respect for them, knowing that they were able to kind of, go through that and get something visually pleasing out of it, so overall, this, again, I keep going back to it, invaluable experience. I am so excited to see what they do next. I would love to have them on again just to be able to pick their brains and see what kind of experience that led as well. Because, Shifted definitely had to be a unique experience for them.
Oh yeah, and very motivating, of course, to have people who've gotten there, like we said, got their movie out there, and people are watching this and experiencing it, and them just giving us all the tips and tricks for our little short film that we're trying to get done this summer. So, it's all really great stuff. Really motivating. I want to thank Jason Green and Adrian Konstant once again for coming on the show. You guys were fantastic, and I definitely think that, again, if you are a person interested in film, or you have friends who are interested in low budget filmmaking, who just want to get their project, to that point where they can get it made, I definitely would recommend sharing this interview and getting it out there so people can definitely hear what trials and tribulations you go through just making an independent feature. And I think that, again, they give very valuable information. And overall, just wonderful guys. I cannot wait to talk to them again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to us here at the end here, I feel like, going through this interview, listening to it and understanding everything, again, with the obstacles, I think you come out more motivated than you went in, because you understand, you look at these films, whether it's in theater, whether it's streaming, and the mindset is, oh, they didn't have to struggle to get this done. They had some backing to achieve this and get it on the streaming. And it's like, no, they deal with the exact same obstacles, whether you're doing a feature for Screambox or you're, doing a short film that's only 2 or 3 minutes with zero budget. You're dealing with the same obstacles to get these films made, to get your creative vision out there. And then, it leads to bigger and better things. So, listening to this again is something, whether you like Shifted or not, this is an interview you can come back to whenever you're feeling that there is no hope or you're not going to get that project made, because they give you so many great tidbits of advice.
Absolutely. But alrighty, guys, it's going to wrap us up here for our interview with the folks over at Shifted. Thank you again once more to the folks over at Screambox. I'll have a link down below if you don't have a subscription to that streaming service. What are you doing? They have some of the best, horror originals month to month, as well as a lot of great classics and features you might not know about. Off the beaten path 80s, off the beaten path, like even just within the last few years. Lots of great stuff over on Screambox. We love them. And we cannot wait to see what they bring us next. But other than that, we got a lot of great stuff on the channel. We got a lot of new movie reviews from everything from Evil Dead Rise, Beau is Afraid, The Black Demon, Sisu, all these great movies that are out in theaters or on streaming for you right now. We have talked about them, as well as my latest video essay, Deconstructing the Deadites, is up for your viewing pleasure as well. And of course, this isn't the only interview we've gotten done. Luke himself sat down with the director and writer of Sisu, being able to give us, some nice little nuggets into that. And I thought it was a very nice interview. So I think that that's definitely one you guys are going to want to check out. Not as long as this one. Again, these folks were very generous with their time. But I definitely think if you are into screenwriting, Luke, he asks the best questions for it. So, and he's got a couple of great ones there. If you're interested in Sisu or Rare Exports, that's one for you to check out. So, alrighty, guys. Until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.